Hi everyone, it's Mrs. McInnes here. So in this video we're going to be looking at a little revision of how we sketch out our quadratic graphs and then how we can use the sketches for solving. So this is part of your notes for this Quadratics Part 2 topic, but we're not going to be doing any questions on this at the minute because it is something we have covered previously, but I feel that right now is a good point to just look back at this and revise over how to do these types of questions, because you will see these as we start to go through a mixture of past paper style quadratics questions. So we did do this in Unit 3. So we're going to do a couple of examples of how to sketch out a graph. So here we have example 6, sketch the graphs of the following quadratic functions, and we're being asked to mark various points on here. So we're being asked to mark onto your diagram the roots, the axis of symmetry, the coordinate and the nature of your turning point and your y-intercept. So all of those pieces of information will give you headers for your work. So pieces of working that you need to do will fall under these headings, okay? So the first example we're doing here is f of x equals x squared minus 2x minus 24. So the first piece of working I'm going to do is the roots. So this is exactly what we've been working on just now in this topic, where we are solving the equation. So your roots are the same as your x-intercepts. When you solve, they're all the same thing. So at this point for your roots, your y-coordinate is 0. So you know that y equals 0. So you are setting that function to 0 exactly as we've been doing so far. So x squared minus 2x minus 24 equals 0. And we're solving it basically. So this is your trinomial and it'll go into double brackets. So the numbers that multiply to minus 24 but will add up to minus 2 in the middle, we're going to have minus 6 and plus 4. So we have x minus 6 equals 0, so x is 6. And we have x plus 4 equals 0, so x is minus 4. So our two roots are going to be 6, 0 and minus 4, 0. Then we would need to look next at our turning point. So I'm going to do that as a separate piece of working. So turning point. And for your turning point, your x-coordinate is halfway between your two roots. So we add the x-coordinates and half it. So 6 plus the minus 4 and then divide by 2. So 6 plus minus 4, well that's just 6 minus 4, which is 2, divided by 2 is 1. Then to get the y-coordinate, we're going to substitute 1 back into our equation. So we're going to have 1 squared minus 2 times 1 minus 24. So that gives us 1 minus 2 minus 24, which is minus 25. So your turning point is 1 minus 25. Now, from there, we can now write down our line of symmetry. We've done the roots, we've done the turning point. We can do your line of symmetry. So because we know that the x-coordinate of your turning point is 1, that is also the equation of your line of symmetry. So your axis of symmetry is x equals 1. We then also were asked for the nature of the turning point, so we can write that in as well. So nature of the turning point. Now remember, if your equation is a positive x squared, then it's a happy face shape, so it's a minimum turning point. If it was a negative x squared, it's the sad face shape, so it would be a maximum turning point. The last thing to do here is your y-intercept. So your y-intercept is when x is 0. It's where on the y-axis does the quadratic cross through. So on your y-axis, your x-coordinate is a 0. So all you need to do there is just substitute 0 into your equation. So we're going to have 0 squared minus 2 times 0 minus 24, which is obviously just minus 24. So your coordinate there would be 0 minus 24. So now that we've done all these pieces of working, we need to mark these various coordinates onto our diagram. So we have our two roots, we have our turning point, we have our y-intercept, and we have our line of symmetry. So now all we have to do is a sketch. So you'll have to forgive the wobbly lines. Writing on the iPad is not the easiest thing to do without your ruler tools and things that I would normally have on the board. So I'll do my best. So we would draw ourselves a coordinate axis here. So we've got X, we've got Y. So our roots are 6 and -4. So we would do marking for -4 and we'd write on there what that is. And one where roughly 6 would be. We're then going to mark our y-intercept on. So this is actually quite a long axis. So I'm just going to slide this up a wee bit. So we've got -24 for our y-intercept. So let's just say maybe around about here. And our turning point was 1 -25, so just slightly lower than that y-intercept. And I'm going to write the coordinate underneath, so 1 -25. Then all we have to do is join these up in the right shape, and it's that kind of U shape, so we would need to cross through all these points. So again, forgive the wobbly lines that the iPad pen seems to do. And then the last thing to do here would really be to mark your line of symmetry. So that would be just a dotted line all the way down, making sure it crosses your turning point. I'm going to write up here x equals 1. I'm just going to write at the side here, minimum turning point. Okay, and that is everything that you would need to do for this type of question. Okay, let's do a second one of these. So the second one is f of x equals 8 minus x squared plus 2x. So the first thing to notice is that quadratic equation is not laid out in the right order. So we just want to do a wee bit of rearranging first of all. So I'm going to put the minus x squared along at the end. So I've got 8 plus 2x minus x squared. Okay, I'm not going to put minus x squared at the beginning because that is then a wee bit harder to factorise for your roots. But if you put it in the reverse order with the minus x squared at the end, we have seen questions like that for factorising, okay? So we're going to do our roots first of all. So remember, your roots are when y is equal to 0. That's the same as solving. So we're going to have 8 plus 2x minus x squared equals 0. So this is going to factorise into double brackets, but it's just backwards, okay? So we've got an x and an x, but they'll be at the end of each bracket. And we need the numbers that multiply to 8, but add up to 2. So it's going to be a 4 and a 2. And then in this case, we need to decide where the plus and the minus goes. So that we get minus x squared, we need 1 positive, 1 negative. We need to make sure they're in the right place. So if we put the plus in the second bracket, the outer terms will give me 4x. And if I put a minus here in the first one, I'll get minus 2x in the middle. 4 minus 2 leaves me the 2x in the middle. 4 times 2 gives me the 8 at the beginning. So my two solutions, I've got 4 minus x equals 0. So x would be 4, 4 minus 4 for 0. And then I've got 2 plus x equals 0. So x would be equal to minus 2, 2 plus minus 2 for 0. So your two roots are going to be 4, 0 and minus 2, 0. Okay, next I'm going to do my turning point. So the x coordinate is halfway between your two roots. So 4 plus the minus 2 and then half it. So 4 plus minus 2 is just 4 minus 2, which is 2. Divided by 2 is 1. And then the y coordinate, we're going to substitute the 1 back into that original equation. So we've got 8 plus 2 times 1 minus 1 squared. So that becomes 8 plus 2 minus 1. 8 plus 2 is 10, minus 1 is 9. So our turning point is 1, 9. Our axis of symmetry, we get that from the x coordinate of our turning point. So that's just x equals 1. the nature of our turning point. This time we have a minus x squared in our equation, so it's a sad face, so it's a maximum turning point. And the last piece would be our y-intercept. So your y-intercept is when x is 0. So we're going to substitute that into the equation. So 8 minus 2 times 0 minus 0 squared. So that's just going to be 8. So your turning point, your y-intercept will be 0, 8. Now all we need to do is mark all these points on our diagram. So we have our two roots, 4 and minus 2. We have our turning point, 1, 9. We have our line of symmetry, x equals 1, and our y-intercept, 0, 8. So if we make a sketch of this, so again, I'll do my best to do it as neat as I can for you. So our two roots, first of all, so we've got 4 and minus 2. We've then got our y-intercept of 8, and our turning point is 1, 9, so just slightly higher than that, 1, 9. So then we're doing this sort of upside down U shape, so making sure you cross through all the points you've just labelled. And then the last thing I'm going to do is my line of symmetry has a dotted line right down the middle, and I'm just going to write x equals 1 beside that, and it's a maximum turning point, so I'm just going to write that onto the picture as well. Okay, so hopefully that's a good reminder for you of sketching your quadratics. There's one more example in your notes here, which is the type of question that we would maybe use these skills for. So example 7, we have find the coordinates of the points marked with the letters in the diagram below. So we have our equation y equals x squared minus 4x minus 5, and we have a, b, c and d as coordinates. So we're being asked to decide what those points are. So really this is the same as what you were just doing in the last two examples, but the diagram has been sketched out for you just without any numbers. So the steps of working are going to be the same. So the first one I'm going to do is the roots. So that would be a and b as coordinates. So for my roots, I know that y is 0. So I'm going to set my equation to 0. So x squared minus 4x minus 5 equals 0. Factorise this. So double brackets. So for 5, it has to be a 5 and a 1. And then to get minus 4 in the middle, it's going to be minus 5 and plus 1. So when we solve each of these, x minus 5 equals 0. So x is 5. And then x plus 1 equals 0, so x is minus 1. So in terms of the two coordinates a and b, we can decide which one is which. So a is obviously into the negative quadrant, so that must be the minus 1, 0. And b is then obviously your 5, 0. The next point I'm going to do is point D, because that is your turning point, and that's usually the next piece of working that I get you to do. So your turning point is the x coordinate halfway between your roots, so minus 1 plus 5 and then halved. So minus 1 plus 5 is 4, divided by 2 is 2. And then your y coordinate will be 2 squared minus 4 times 2 minus 5. So plugging it into that original equation. So that gives us 4 minus 8 minus 5. 4 minus 8 is minus 4, minus another 5 is minus 9. So that point D is 2 minus 9. That leaves us with coordinate C, which is on the y-axis. So that is your y-intercept. And our y-intercept is when x is equal to 0. So all we need to do is put 0 into our original equation. So 0 squared minus 4 times 0 minus 5, which is just minus 5. So point C would be 0 minus 5.